Okay, this is a review of part three of Shane Cashman's article, ELIZA BLEU and the Perpetual Trauma Machine, published on Timcast. How to Survive a PSYOP and a Puff Piece. So a little bit of background. There's human trafficking, sexual human sexual trafficking advocate, ELIZA BLEU, um, that got into a lot of hot water recently because none of her story really seemed to check out. People were questioning whether she was actually a survivor of trafficking, like she claimed that she was. Um, and when people started questioning her, this was Brittany Venti and a bunch of other related people. And when people started questioning her, she started striking everyone's channels down, getting people banned on um, Twitter, using her influence. I guess she has a personal connection or a relationship with Elon Musk, and in the past. So the issue became a censorship issue. Basically, somebody that was perceived to be falsely claiming having been trafficked and using that, um, you know, uh, being accused of basically using um, the story of being trafficked to benefit herself and her um, rise to fame, I guess. Uh, so the response by Timcast was not good. So Timple didn't say much about it, about ELIZA herself. Um, Basically, he dismissed all the criticism as drama, as content creators making drama videos and just stirring the shit, so to speak, and then getting people um, basically just dismissing or ignoring the fact that this has become a censorship issue. Um, People using their clout, like people like ELIZA, using their clout to get people banned. So Cashman started releasing these stories. I guess this was planned well ahead of time, before all this dropped, but this is part three. Now, part one and part two, I haven't reviewed, but a lot of other people have done so. So, but I just wanted to get into it because some of the stuff that I've been reading in part one and part two, it is just nonsense. It's just emotional nonsense. There's no content there. There's no argument. Um, Maybe like I haven't gone through part three yet. It just dropped yesterday. Maybe Shane will sort of turn around and redeem himself and actually have some good points. My expectation is that he won't. Um, People who write these kinds of things tend to double down, but I will enter it with an open mind and see if there's anything of value in it. So hopefully it's not that long. The first couple parts, part one and part two, were fairly long, but hopefully this one isn't. Okay, so let's get started. The views expressed are solely those of the author and do not represent the position of Timcast News as a whole. Okay, so this is just Shane's view. I'll talk about that later. To what extent does Tim Pool have a responsibility to review the content that's being published on Timcast, right? And to what extent should he be commenting on it? Um, and what should his, is he approaching it the best way he can? But I'll set that aside for now. Let's tackle the article in itself. So he writes, There are people in this world who will destroy you for fame, cash, or chaos. Sometimes people will seek your destruction because they think you deserve it. Other times, the hate is fueled by ignorance. We've seen this situation play out multiple times before. I believe this whole ELIZA BLEU controversy was a psychological operation. Okay, so there's there's a thesis. It's a little bit uh, conspiracy theory. Okay, so basically, the whole criticism about ELIZA BLEU, it was a psychological operation. For what purpose, by who, and for what gain? Uh, I guess he'll get into it. Let's see. So far, there's no real argument, but that's a thesis. We'll see what kind of support he brings up. A coordinated hit job orchestrated hate, and then everyone bought into it. The psyop grew so loud that it was the only thing people could hear, and I am disappointed in everyone who fell for it. I don't respect the way most people handled it, but I believe in redemption. This shouldn't negate the real conversations I enjoy about censorship and the tech elite's bubble. This is mostly directed at the targeted harassment that was disguised as some kind of Twitter heroism. All right, so here's the thing. Here's a way I'm going to approach it. So basically, all I'm interested in whatever evidence that he can bring to support his thesis that ELIZA BLEU controversy was a psychological operation. Um, and in general, I might comment on Shane's approach to this, but so far, that entire first paragraph after the thesis, um, it was just there was nothing of value in it. There's no evidence, there's no argument. It's just words with emotions laden onto it. And really, that's not any kind of approach. That's not any kind of sane approach to any kind of argument. So I'm going to just dismiss that. We'll see. I'm going to start highlighting some support that he actually brings if he does, but so far I don't see any. Okay, next paragraph. I believe this entire smear campaign was manufactured and grew into something organic because a lot of real people interact with so many bots. They don't read things fully, don't go beyond the clickbait, and it's nearly impossible to tell them apart. Look at how by the time this story wormed its way up to some of the most well-known political commentators, they were thinking ELIZA was a genuine employee at Twitter. It's maddening having to watch a story mutate like this, but we grew up talking about the game of telephone for a reason. Okay, so nothing of worth there. Next paragraph. As much as everyone is crying about ELIZA's situation, it was a case for gatekeeping on podcasts. As much as they ridiculed show hosts for not properly vetting their guests, these very same people haven't vetted the one person that started the entire controversy in the first place, or maybe they did, and they all work together. Maybe we will know one day. All right, so I'm not gonna just stop paragraph by paragraph at this point. Really not coming across anything. I'm just gonna keep on reading it. I'll point out the first good evidence or some support or some argument that he brings, but so far I'm not seeing anything. We'll see how long we can go. In the wake of Twitter suspensions connected to the world star hip hop video, a lot of YouTube commentators started saying podcasts should start vetting their guests better. I would suggest that the same should go for sources of information, the people you are willing to pal around with as you mock someone's downfall. This all started with the man we'll call the gang stalker. The gang stalker runs in a circle that's been accused of controlling hundreds, if not thousands, of bogus Twitter accounts, buying black SUVs and parking outside people's homes to intimidate, and even injecting something into someone who would wake up 2 weeks later with a piece of their minds missing. This could also be lore they created themselves to make them sound bigger, scarier than they really are. But I have seen photos of one man in particular whom they stalked online and drove into a mental institution. when people say they don't want to talk about this, you should understand why. These are not good people. Okay, so um, briefly, here's something that sort of appears at first to be some kind of support. So he's talking about somebody, and he's calling him a gang stalker, and he's saying that he's seen photos of one man in particular whom they stalked online and drove into a mental institution. Okay, so where's the photo? What mental institution? Who is it? None of the details are provided. So far, like there's no way I can take this as any kind of support or evidence. This is just hearsay. This is just Shane claiming something. Still no support. So still nothing. Uh, let's continue on. The gang stalker says he works for money. He says he works for fame, but I think he mostly wants chaos among independent media landscape. This man puts a lot of effort into making sure everyone knows who he is, and I will not add to his status. He could very well be reading this out loud on his live stream as we speak with the condescending tone he uses for my theories or for my stories. I respect the work ethic. Dude live streams all the time and supposedly works at a casino or Uber Eats. Or he's a Fed. Or he's a hero in all of this and I'm the insane one. Okay, if you know the man that started the thread that threw Eliza's timeline into question, then you know his name. I find his tactics to be incredibly dangerous, dubiously legal, and absolutely sinister. I have been on the receiving end of his tactics. I see anyone in his surroundings as a threat and worthy of total distrust. Perhaps he's only a troll, but I think it's much darker than that. I think everyone should be wary of the way he does business. Okay, it's just a comment here. So far, this has nothing to do with anything. Okay, so the Shane makes it sound like the reason, the source of the doubt was this one guy throwing Eliza's timeline into question, but that's not the issue. The problem is well, just recently, like for example, the World Star video, um, Brittany Venti and others had very like still images from the clip that was on YouTube, and that was a publicly available video. And Eliza basically used that to basically try to get people banned and um, silenced on Twitter, on YouTube, that kind of thing. Getting people, getting strikes on YouTube channels. So um, I don't know what Shane's talking about of whatever timeline that was thrown into question by who. I don't know who this guy is, who this gang stalker is. Nobody cares. It really doesn't have to do with anything. He's trying to sort of pigeonhole the source of the problem to this guy, but that's not the source of the problem. But anyway, also, so far, there's still no evidence, still no support, no link to anything, no picture posted. Basically nothing. Just a bunch of claims, a bunch of statements, nothing of value so far. Okay, so he does not work alone and he does not operate in the shadows. He is vocal about his services. The gang stalker was affiliated with the now supposedly defunct company called Shadowbox. Okay, at least there's something named. All right. Continuing, their website stated, "This is war. Shadowbox is your army. We solve your problems and expose truth. We unleash a multifaceted strategic battle plan through integrated research into media, legal, and digital chaos where your enemies have lied to paint you as a bad guy. We sow the seeds of doubt and present the counter-narrative that they are in fact the villains, and you have been unjustly accused. We do this through sophisticated use of internet technology, meme creation, PR, and cyber guerrilla tactics that stop the bleeding and begin to sway public opinion and the media in your favor." what we do. Shadowbox designs crisis management counterinsurgencies to debunk and hit back at malicious and defamatory online and media attacks on our clients. Our operations unit effectively routes adversaries away from you, sending them to chase phantoms and rendering them exhausted and perplexed. I don't believe ruining ELIZA was their main goal. I think they reverse engineered the chaos scenario. Maybe they wanted to use her to discredit Elon Musk. Maybe they wanted to use her to destroy Twitter. But I think it's most likely they want to destroy the landscape. Okay, here's the thing. Just a comment. Um, this is this is like what I usually sort of call mind reading. When people don't are not dealing with facts, reasons, evidence, usually what they will do is sort of hop into this sort of meta space, meta analysis of something, and say, well, that person is saying this because their motivation is X, Y, Z. um there's no, and with no real, like, especially when there's no argument or evidence given for that claim, it's just pure mind reading. And it's nothing of value. It's just emotional distraction from whatever it is that we're discussing. And so far, like, I'm trying to give him this guy the benefit of the doubt here, and trying to highlight any kind of evidence or argument that he's going to provide, but so far I'm not seeing anything. So far, 100% garbage, 0% substantial um, statements. So continuing on, I have a theory based on what I've seen from the gang stalker and the people he practically brainwashed with the deception campaign. He is wicked smart, and I believe he sees everyone involved as chess pieces. He knows how everyone will react to certain situations. He has studied you so he can destroy you, and he will profit off your corpse. This should disturb everyone, especially the ones who are up in arms about who is and isn't grifting to whatever grift standards the grifters uphold. Okay, that's a mouthful, but okay, so far nothing, still nothing. The gang stalker has also laughed about the way one associate who has used gang stalk tactics to drive two people to commit suicide. Okay, another factual claim with zero support. Reader, you must be vigilant not to open strange links from people pretending to be your friend. You must remain vigilant that you are not sharing too much personal information with someone you think is an ally. The gang stalker will infiltrate your personal digital space, and then when he's ready, he will flood you with a psychological attack. I've seen this happen to colleagues for the past few weeks, including myself. Of course, it's not all manufactured, but I'm positive a lot of it is. I don't even know what he's talking about by it. Anyway, so he has some kind of a situation or a beef with this gang stalker person. I have no idea why this is relevant to anyone. None of us have received anything from this gang stalker, or we don't know who he is. We haven't received anything. We haven't clicked on anything sent by him. Anyway, whatever. My theories say there was a man who sold subscriptions to be part of his private group. This man talked about honesty, fatherhood, and masculinity. He earned a lot of members. His platform grew. He would appear as a frequent guest on many popular podcasts. It would come to light that this man had what appeared to be a sordid past, if you can call it that. Everyone found out this man had done porn in the past, written articles about some strange sex practices, and suddenly explicit images of him began to circulate around the internet. Okay, just interjecting a comment. So this must be about Jack Murphy. Turned out that he was into cuckolding. He has done Chatterbait, um, including videos where he was being pegged. Anyway, so basically he made like 17 appearances on Timcast, and Tim wouldn't really say anything about that. Basically, just stopped talking about him. I guess Jack Murphy stopped being invited to Tim's show, but basically Tim got a lot of flack for um, not calling out, uh, basically this kind of fake conservative grifting that Jack Murphy was being perceived to be doing by a lot of people. But anyway, let's see what Shane says about this. When this happened, we saw a distinctive fracture in the way YouTube personalities discuss that situation. The man in question was practically banished, pushed outside of our polite society. I found his story to be perverse, but I also believe in redemption. I believe that people can change from the person they used to be. Unless, of course, our puritanical overlords have anything to say about it. Then they will spam places like Twitter until all you see are naked images of some stranger. It's a nauseating and gruesome business practice, if you want to call it that. Another comment. Okay, so far there's nothing of value. This is still garbage. Uh, right. So um, I kind of hesitate to even address it because, like, I don't even on one level, it's like, why should I even address some claim that has zero factual basis, zero evidence? But I guess I'll still call it out. So basically, Shane is making it sound like there's some kind of a, well, he refers to it as gruesome business practice. That there's a conscious business practice of banishing um, Jack Murphy from Polite Society or whatever, um, basically banishing him, not platforming him, I guess. Um, but here's the thing. Number one, nobody has an obligation to platform anybody else. If they don't want to invite somebody to talk on their show, they don't have to. Jack is more than welcome to have his own show and broadcast that and attract people to watch those shows, and I'm sure he has. I haven't paid any attention to it, but nobody is really trying to, like, the difference is ELIZA BLEU trying to cancel people, so to silence them, from like to stop people from being able to speak about her. Uh, Actually, not just about her, but being able to speak in general, right? Because they're being silenced off their platforms. Nobody was doing that to Jack Murphy. Like, we basically stopped promoting him. That's not the same thing, right? And of course, that's not the only reason why why Jack Murphy basically alienated himself from this. Um, uh, Most of us know what happened with the podcast, where um, Sydney Watson was the host of the show. Jack Murphy was a guest, and it, Sydney was just reading a super chat that was talking about Jack Murphy's past, and he blew up at her. He started swearing, got really mad at her for reading out the chat. Why would you do that? Blah blah blah. Basically, he wanted Sydney to run interference and basically sort of try to shield him from any kind of criticism that the chat would have about him. Um, but basically expected her to suppress any kind of questioning that other people had about Jack Murphy during his guest appearance on Sydney's show. But that's completely that's just unreasonable expectation of a show's host to do. especially in a show where the hosts were basically reading out all the super chats. I mean, these are people that are paying on the show to have their comment, and the expectation was that their comments would be read. So why would you demand, like, come on somebody else's show and demand that they not read their own super chats? That's completely insane. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. Um, some internet personalities turned the naked images of this man into a business model. Others remained quiet. Some of the audience wanted it to be addressed. Others didn't care. I could be way off base, but after researching the gang stalker and the wild claims he's made, such as starting QAnon, I believe it's possible he used ELIZA to create a similar situation as the one just described. If this theory is true, he probably understood how everyone would react. He knew who would jump on the bandwagon and meme the target into oblivion, and he knew who would remain quiet. He knew how the audience would react. And I think he knew that he would make the seed of all this seem organic, while also orchestrating an army of bots to make these names trend, tricking us into thinking any of this is that important. If he's reading this right now, he's probably thinking he should doubt people and giving him more credit than he deserves. He may be. I think there are a lot of people working with him, and they are either associates or they are bots, but the ones who have been the most cruel online to me and others all follow each other. It's a web of chaos agents. Okay, so far I don't know who he's talking about, and none of this have anything to do with anything. Again, it's for most of us concerned with the censorship initiated by ELIZA. It's not. It doesn't have to do with this gang stalker person. Anyway, continuing on a recent live stream, the gang stalker created the website HelenTroyModeling.com. It is registered, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm just going to start skipping entire paragraphs that have to do with this gang stalker person because, again, it has nothing to do with anything. Okay, so continuing on. But I talked to a model who would like to remain anonymous, who's been involved with Helen Troy Modeling. Supposedly they shut down a long time ago. She said, it looked like the company's Instagram and website had completely changed, blah, 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 blah. Okay, skip that. Would not be surprised if the fake article about Elon Musk unfollowing ELIZA also came from the gang stalker. Okay, skip that paragraph. The private investigator, BX Bullet, who has experienced a similar smear campaign, looked into the domain. The website URL was registered the previous day. In addition, okay, skip that. We must remain vigilant with whom we speak on this hellscape that is internet. It is important to me that we identify this as a problem. We should be able to use this knowledge for maximum good. Instead of jumping to pile on someone before anyone knows the full story, we should reserve judgment, find grace and patience. I think we're all the target, the indie media, journalists, commentator, content creators, and our audience. Okay, skip that. This is a distraction. I understand the need to call out hypocrites and bad faith actors in our circles. We need to have tough discussions. We should condemn censorship. We should also try to understand someone before ridiculing them into oblivion. I am guilty, you are guilty. These past few weeks have proved to me that not even anti establishment is immune from this mob mentality. Okay, what does this have to do with anything? Um, anyway, continuing on. We've all participated in the SIA, but we can move forward and learn to identify this tactic. We've seen who will cave to entertain a conversation in the fashion the mob demands. They have destabilized us and they sit on their live streams every day mocking each other and every one of us. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so uh, I'll interject with another comment. So far, he's just describing. Basically, it's just a whole bunch of reframing Uh, Tim knows all about this. He talks about this all the time. Instead of talking about substantial arguments, evidence, you know, and drawing conclusions from them, basically just taking an action of other, like taking actions of other people and casting them into different emotional slots, um, fitting them into different contexts of different, like, sort of narratives. So that's called reframing, and this is all that he's doing so far. I don't see any evidence, I don't see any argument, I don't see any proper conclusions drawn from, step by step. Um, this is just a pile of garbage so far. Okay, so it seems extreme and schizoid to say all this loud, but if you listen to these people talk, you will learn that this is a real problem we all need to be suspicious of. It is easy to sow discord in communities. No one is immune from, okay, blah, blah, blah. Ignore the rest of that. In the wake of the Twitter suspensions connected to the World Star Hip Hop video, a lot of YouTube commentators started saying that the podcast should start vetting their guests better. I would suggest that the same should go for your source of information, the people you're willing to bow around. Okay, so ignore that. I mean, like, of course, people should vet their guests better, right? But that's not a requirement. You don't have to vet any of your guests. You can just let them come on your show and then, uh, like, take them at their face value. But the thing is, if and when it turns out that what they're saying is not truthful, the appropriate action is to acknowledge that what they're saying is suspicious or doesn't seem to be truthful. And I mean, you don't even have to look into it, but at least say, well, okay, um, there are some questions about what they're saying. Um, and, you could just pass it off. I'll let other people look into that. I'm not going to make any judgments, but you should refer to this person or that person, listen to their arguments, and they might have some alternative views about what this guest was saying. But anyway, what you don't do is run interference and run protection for your past guests without merit, right? If you're going to start protecting your past guests unreasonably, at least look into, you should at least believe that they're telling the truth, right? And whether you believe that they're telling the truth or not should be based on evidence and reasoning, not just based on personal relationships or just automatically giving them a pass. Anyway, I would love to see all the YouTube personalities involved in the ELIZA BLEU drama make videos detailing the way gang stalkers. Ignore the rest of the paragraph. Look, the gang stalker doesn't have to do with anything, right? We all made our own judgments about why ELIZA BLEU's story doesn't make much sense, right? And we made these judgments based on what ELIZA has said herself and some actual facts that we were able to dig up about her past. And a lot of that backed by evidence of, again, ELIZA um, being on video doing this or that, whether she was, talking about her past, or whether she was on the dating show, whether she was on the World Star Hip Hop video. All of this is basically, none of this is on hearsay from this supposed gang stalker character. No, this is all based on evidence on YouTube or other sources, where the actual source of that evidence is ELIZA herself through her videos. So I don't know why Shane is focusing on this gang stalker thing. It's a distraction, right? The very thing that he's accusing everyone of doing without any kind of evidence to back it up, he's doing himself. It's just offering distraction after distraction. instead of engaging in the actual conversation or the actual argument. Continuing on, here's a recent conversation between two of the gang stalkers on the podcast in which they attempt to be a sort of inverted version of the popular show. Okay, so um, another comment here. So, gang stalker previously was a singular person, capitalized G, gang stalker. Starting from this paragraph, it seems that he's turning it into a group of people. So, lowercase g, gang stalkers. So, apparently, it's like a community of people that he's applying this label to. So, basically, what he's doing is kind of sneaky. So initially, he attempted a hit on this anonymous person. Then he dropped more details, and then he's widening the net and um, applying the hit to more people. Um, None of this relevant to what we're talking about, by the way, or the actual issue. Anyway, hopefully I can get more popular, one said. They brainstorm how they can pretend to turn on each other online to create chaos and gain more popularity. It's like watching two villains talk inside an aquarium. I'm a controlled op. My dad works for the government. You're in cahoots with Twitter. I can give you material to leak about me. They define gang stalker. Working with the gang to stalk people, something that paranoid people say happens to them, but it's also a thing that happens in real life. It means that a group of people are stalking you all at the same time and trying to make you feel crazy. We know someone who's professional at that. Sometimes they do it until you kill yourself. We know exactly what kind of tactics these people use. That's how we're capable of identifying them. They know how fragile people can be under the crushing wave of a digital attack. So many people's entire. I don't even know. Okay, I'm gonna stop that paragraph. I don't even know who he's talking about again. So skip that. I've been talking a lot about my idea of simulation theory. We aren't in some computer generated reality. Rather, we were born into base reality original. Okay, he's talking about reality, but I have no idea what that has to do with anything. The gang stalker is an engineer, just one simulation. Skip. I fear the way gang stalkers will evolve their tactics with deepfakes and AI and deepfakes. Skip. It's digital guerrilla warfare. This is too important to ignore. Aside from watching what I believe to be a heinous character assassination, this needs to be shared so that skip. Everyone is focused on nuclear war. The doomsday clock ticks closer to the end, but war has changed. The most deceptive war is a war on the soul. Nukes have shrunk down into a virus-sized weapon. The thought, a simple thread on Twitter, that doesn't make sense once you realize ELIZA was born in 1981, that she was trafficked 2 times. I don't have enough proof that she lied. I believe her. I don't need anyone to feel the same I do about her story, but I would like to see people switch up the way they mindlessly attack someone without even hearing the alternative point of view. Okay, comment. Well, anybody that attacked ELIZA was in response to ELIZA attacking content creators based on them posting pictures from a public video. This is all information straight from ELIZA, right? Well, maybe through WorldStar, but it was her on the video. So, as far as her past goes, uh, it's not good enough that she's saying that she was trafficked 2 times or whatever. I don't have enough proof that she lied. Look, it's not up to people to prove that she lied. If she offers information that she was trafficked, but it kind of goes against uh, the facts that we know about her past, then it is what it is. We can all draw our own conclusions. And if she wants to prove it, that's up to her. If not, then we have every right to believe whatever evidence that we see most suggests what happened, right? Anyway, it is clear the loudest critics of our story hardly read. Okay, whatever. Most of the worst things being said about me, except for a handful of y'all, are all small Twitter accounts. Skip. The evil thought that the gang stalker whispers into your brain radicalizes you into becoming foot soldiers. Skip. The internet is wasteland. The modern world looks nice with all its shiny tech. We attribute so much horror to earlier civilizations. Skip. We can identify their tactics, but I think we can move on. Skip. We're all better than that. Better than that, the cat dragged the dove into the house as the sun came up. Skip. It was strange on Twitter because it seemed like everyone bought Twitter BLEU. Skip. Alright. I walked the Moorland farm property with Eliza looking for that free Tesla. Did you get money for that humanity house, that safe house you started? I asked. I said I wanted to start a safe house. I never accepted donations from it. I didn't. I had extra mattresses when I moved from my grandma's house down to that house. I heard you accepted grant funding, I said. I didn't apply for grant funding. I didn't make it a 501c3. I didn't do anything like that. This was at a time when survivors were contacting me. It was winter and COVID was happening. Restaurants were closed, and a lot of survivors and other folks were bartenders. Okay. So I'm scanning the rest of the paragraph for any kind of factual information that can be verified. Um, a bunch of quoted words, but nobody named, nothing identifiable. Okay, under the current system, the government is going to have to legislate around that, so people will have to decide, especially celebrities and influencers will have to decide if they can. Okay, she's talking about AI porn. Sounds like we're going to have to start a real conversation about deepfakes. Okay, there's multiple answers here for this conversation we're functioning from. It's just the two of them talking. There's no corroboration of anything. There's no facts. No quotes from anyone other than Eliza and Shane. All right, so, okay, skip. All right. A lot of people started to reach out to me in private about their experiences with Eliza as an advocate. I think it's worth sharing a few of these since other people who hate Eliza keep hitting me up demanding proof of her advocacy work. Nora Brienne told me after watching an episode of Timcast IRL in 2021, I was compelled to reach out to his guest that night, ELIZA BLEU. I found her on Twitter and saw more about her advocacies for survivors of sex trafficking and activism against child porn in a time. I had an account with Pornhub and deleted it after I learned that what they were doing. This opened a conversation between me and Eliza about my history in the adult industry, especially BDSM. We spoke on the phone multiple times, and she gave me resources I needed to leave the adult industry. I had been groomed by the age 16 by my 26-year-old boyfriend to become a dominatrix in Hollywood. Eliza offers support and advice and how to adapt to a life outside of the adult industry after years of feeling stuck. For this, I am very grateful and I've been able to move forward in my life transition. Okay, so at least it's something, this is the first outside First thing that's verifiable from another source that's not ELIZA or Shane. Now, the problem is that this has nothing to do with the original issue at hand, which is ELIZA striking people for um, posting an image from our World Star video, basically being a force of censorship, right? So, if this is true, right, from Nora Briand, so it looks like at least in 2021 or after, she has at least helped one person get out of pornography or whatever um, while she was underage or whatever. So that's good. So here's the thing, like nobody's saying that ELIZA has never done anything good ever. The issue is the bad things that she has done, the lies she has told, and the lies she's continuing to tell. That is the issue. So it's not like a point system. It's like, oh, if I do like a good thing here and there, then it's sort of gonna negate the bad things that I just did. It doesn't work that way, right? So while I'm highlighting this as sort of the first factual thing that I'm coming across, should be a big asterisk around it because it's not related to the issue at hand. Okay, next. I talked to Amanda Jean, who does advocacy work alongside ELIZA. They have known each other for several years. She shared how they helped to coordinate the rescues of women from bad situations. They set up a way for an advocate closest to the women to meet her and take her to a safe place with men. Okay, so someone else we can verify. I also spoke with Lisa Haba of the Haba Law Firm. Haba is representing John Doe number 1 and 2 versus Twitter, the case that ELIZA is pinned to her Twitter profile. Okay, I don't know what that's about, but sure. ELIZA BLEU took interest in a case that we filed on behalf of two young boys that were sex trafficked, extorted, and then have had a compilation video depicting their abuse published and disseminated on Twitter. Haba wrote to me, okay, blah, 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 blah. So I'll highlight that entire paragraph as something that's verifiable, but again, it's not related. Drew Cook is the founder of the Libertarian Party Silver Caucus and also the founder and board president of Oklahoma City based on harm reduction organization called Shred the Stigma. When I decided to start up the harm reduction organization, we deliver Narcan and other equipment to active drug users in the community. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Source of information, teaching best practices and our approach. Okay, so basically some kind of a consulting role for drug user reach out. Okay, that's fine. Okay, ELIZA ever got paid by him for his work. Never once benefited any way or form. Nonprofit. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Another fair criticism is that ELIZA is that she admits to not having the best memory. There are gaps in time. Some of the details are unclear. I asked Annie from Hookers for Jesus what she thought about that. Okay. Common with trafficking survivors, a lot of them have dissociation. I've had that. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So again, I'm just highlighting something that's verifiable, but it's still not related to the issue at hand. Okay, so far, not finding anything of value here. ELIZA preferred talking about the future. The year 2050 is printed in our brain. Okay, it's just a quote about what she said. Again, this just sort of they're talking about AI. Thinking about the campaigns against me right now, much evil and wickedness and nasty words, blah blah blah. Yet you somehow still have hope for the future. Okay, her goals, what she wants to do, robots. Um, any jobs that can be replaced with robots. Gang stalker reference again. The gang stalkers. They spam the comments. Um, the death of my career looks like me standing up for a woman who I believe to be a survivor of sex trafficking. Okay, blah blah blah. What Shane believes. Okay, psyop. Look, there's like no. It's just claim after claim, statement after statement. Most of them are emotionally laden words just to reframe things. There's no support, there's no evidence, there's no argument. So, what am I supposed to do? I'm trying to give Shane the benefit of the doubt here, but I'm really not finding anything. A bunch of verifiable things earlier about the people that maybe ELIZA helped since 2021 and after, maybe. But what does that have to do with anything, right? Because her good deeds don't, whatever, her recent good deeds don't cancel out about any of the lies she told or the censorship that she's bringing about. Anyway, okay. Um, Silence can be good and necessarily tactful. Gang stalkers might turn on me now with even more force. I was finishing writing of this story while there's a Chinese spy balloon. Um, what? There's evil and there's darkness in the world. Okay, so I'll just quote the last paragraph, just because, just to wrap things up. There's evil and there's darkness in the world, but there's also a lot of good and light will love will win the end, and unfortunately not everyone will make it there with us, but it will win in the end. History has shown us this repeatedly. No matter how dark things are, some will make it, and good and light and love will make it, and it doesn't stay bad forever. So supposedly that's words from ELIZA. It's just a bunch of word salad. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, none of this addresses anything. So basically, um, Shane has failed to address anything in this part three. Like, what is this supposed to be for? Right? It's just a bunch of nonsense about gang stalkers and some unrelated anecdotes about some of the good things that ELIZA has done. But it doesn't address the fact that um, she made a world star hip hop video, like basically dancing as like a rap video vixen. Um, that people have screenshotted that and posted those screenshots, and then for that, that's like a publicly available video, a video that she was really happy to put out there, by the way. Um, and for that, she basically started a bunch of nonsense. So trying to censor a lot of people, and the problem is that Shane has come to defend her, um, but without really addressing anything about what she's done. He just, in part three here, just went on a huge tangent about gang stalkers and some anecdotes of the good things that ELIZA has done. And maybe it's a good time now to sort of discuss what this means for Tim and the rest of us in general. So here's the issue. So all of us want to deal with facts. All of us want to deal with reality. We want to know what is true, what is not true. And when we're trying to convince each other what is true or what is not true, we want to do it with evidence and reason. We want to show, okay, these are the images, these are the articles, or these are the things that, these are the facts that have happened, right? If there was trafficking, maybe she reported it to the police, there were police reports, or this or that, or maybe she didn't because, Stockholm syndrome. I don't know, but at least, and like she's under no obligation to talk about it. Uh, but that's sort of like a red herring. Who cares? Right now, what we're concerned with is whatever her story is in the past, it really doesn't. Like, Tim is actually correct in saying this. Nobody cares about who Eliza Blue is and what she's done in the past, or whether the things that she claimed happened or not. I mean, people do care to the extent that we prefer to have people, when we spend our energy watching a show, like watching a Timcast RL or whatever other show there might be, when we spend the time and energy to pay attention to a show, our expectation is that whatever guests that come on those shows are at least telling us things that are true. If they don't, if they lie, um, or if they're just disingenuous or whatever, as a lot of people have concluded that Jack Murphy was, that a lot of people have concluded that Eliza Blue was, we might call it out. But in the end, we all realize that, it really doesn't matter too much. Now, what happens when we actually really get riled up is when people sort of try to basically take reality, replace it with alternate realities, replace it with narratives, replace it with fanciful stories full of emotion that are meant to sort of emotionally sway us, but with no facts, like Shane is doing, or trying to just memory hole it, or just, you know, um, if we actually do show concern about the censorship thing that's been happening, one of the reasons why people got really mad at Tim is because he basically said, no, there's not really an issue there. There's not things that are worth worrying about. We're just a bunch of people obsessed with drama. We're just a bunch of people that are trying to basically make Tim do things, and if he doesn't do those things, then we get mad at him and all that stuff, right? So basically, I mean, we get upset when people try to replace reality with a bunch of fiction, with a bunch of made up words, what they mean that they traditionally didn't mean. Basically, replace all our past history, facts, shared knowledge, and replace those things with nonsense. And this is what Eliza's done, the most latest thing, right? Like this image based sexual assault thing, or whatever she termed it, right? So basically, just taking images and using it without without consent or whatever. And the consent is this continual consent where you keep having to check back whether you can use it or not, regardless of whether the material has been publicly released for public consumption or not. Just making dog soup out of any kind of intellectual property or publishing of any kind of content, where anyone participating in the creation of that content can at any time basically retroactively say that it was abusive act because they withdrew their consent from it, even though that was created with their consent for its creation. So um, that's why we are all upset with issues like this. Um, as far as I mean, Tim might have addressed this since then. Since what I've heard him say last time, I think I sort of heard something to that effect in the interview between Nina Infinity and Viva Frey and Robert Barnes. Maybe, but I haven't seen it myself. But maybe Tim kind of apologized. But we know for sure that Shane certainly didn't apologize for spouting a bunch of nonsense in defense of ELIZA without any factual things to back it up, without actually presenting us uh, a, an argument that we can actually evaluate, right? Instead, just doing a bunch of reframing, just tossing out a bunch of emotional words, calling people gang stalkers or this or that. So, um, really, like at this point, Shane is anti reality. He is actively trying to undermine our the proper way for us to resolve disputes and understand things. And to the extent that Tim is not denouncing that, I don't know what to think about that, right? So there is a disclaimer that whatever Shane is writing, it's his thoughts and alone. It's not reflective of Timcast's views. That's fine, but I mean, it's still Timcast. It's Tim's company, right? Like he can say, "Well, I read Shane's article," and he can say, "Well, I agree with it," or he can say, "I don't agree with it, but I respect um, Shane's role as in being able to share his independent thought apart from me, that I'm not going to try to influence his thought. He can still share what he wants to share, uh, even if I disagree. I mean, he can say something like that. But what he can't do is just say, "Well, it's Shane's story. I have no thoughts on it." Um, that's really just taking a coward's way out, right? Because how do you not have thoughts about something, especially when it's content that is being published on your own platform that has your name on it, right? So, um, if he wants to agree, agree. If he wants to disagree, disagree. But at least be able to comment on that and just say, look, it is published on Timcast website, but Shane is his own man. He can say what he wants to. Um, I agree with it, or I don't agree with it, or I have my judgments, but I'm not going to speak on it for now. I'll let all of you make your own judgments. But what it seems like is being done right now is just he's sort of just uh, not addressing it at all, right? And if he doesn't want to, that's his right, I guess. You know, he can do what he wants to. But um, in combination, in the past videos I've seen, again, he might have apologized for it by now. I don't know, but in the videos I've seen in the past, Um, uh, him saying that, well, that was, I recommend. He basically said like, look, I recommended Shane, don't bother writing about her. She's not important. Write about something else instead. But he wanted to do it, so he wrote it. It has nothing to do with me. That okay? It's all good up to that point, but it's always paired that with calling a bunch of people just like drama people, including quartering Brittany Venti by name, um, and any like even including his own audience, right? So at one point he kind of pigeonholed his audience into sort of three groups. It's like, well, there's like passive listeners, and then there are people that are actively, subscribed and supporting us and whatever. And then there are people that are basically trying to get me to say things and do things, and if I don't do them, then like they demand that they'll leave, and those people they can just screw off or whatever, right? Um, which is really, I mean, which is really kind of disrespectful for the portion of his audience that is just concerned about censorship. They don't like the fact that there are people trying to redefine things or memory hold their own past. And just for the mere fact that other content creators are talking about them, they're trying to sort of bring the power of YouTube and Twitter and um, to bear, and then basically silence them by striking them or ban them or suspending them or whatever it is, right? That's a problem. Again, it kind of erodes our goal, which is to have reality with real things and us resolving disagreements with real facts and arguments, um, and resolving things that way. What we don't want to do is resolve disagreements by striking each other, silencing each other, reframing each other with emotional language, redefining things to make the other person nonsensical when in actuality, when in their when we're grounded in reality, that their concerns actually make sense and are real, right? So that's the way I see the issue now. I don't think Shane is going to put any other pieces out. I'm curious what Tim will eventually say about Shane's piece. I'm hoping that Tim doesn't just remain silent just because Shane is in his team or as a friend or whatever it is. I'm hoping that he has the maturity to be still friends with them, still co-workers with them, but be able to be critical of the content that they put out there because they are publishing on his website, right? Same for This goes for Shane. Same goes for Cassandra, who's been defending ELIZA rather fiercely, I take it. Um, so I think it would be good if everyone on this show can be held accountable. Like they don't deserve to be, like they don't deserve to have their job status in question based on what they say or anything. Like they don't, nothing like that. But at least, uh, you know, Tim is at the head of the organization, and whether, I respect that his employees can work independently, but at least he should be able to comment on what they're putting out. Um, I would hope so anyway. He's not under any obligation to, but I would at least like for Tim not to defend them blindly just because they're his friends and coworkers or employees. Anyway, so that's my thought on it. Actually, I see a lot of similarity in those kinds of nonsense and garbage that was written. It's just way too many words that got nothing done in this part three article. I see a lot of nonsense being put out by writers. I mean, it brings to my mind the review of Hogwarts Legacy by Wired, which I'll probably make a separate video for. And I'm just shocked that writers on major platforms can actually put out pieces that are completely nonsensical like that. It's kind of embarrassing. No, it's not just kind of embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Um, it is embarrassing. I mean, I don't know. If I was Tim and this was being published on Timcast, I would be completely just, I'd be ashamed of it. Um, it's like I'm not saying, like Shane can write what he wants to. I understand that Tim gave him the independence to write what he wants to, and that's fine. But it it is embarrassing to the point where that I think it would benefit Tim to address it. He doesn't have to, but I think it would benefit him to address it. So that's my thoughts on that. Hopefully, we don't see a part four. I believe it's just part three, and that's the end of it. But of course, ELIZA, just having redefined trafficking and sexual assault into digital sexual assault and whatever it is, there's a lot more coming out. There's a lot more nonsense that are going to be put out before this is all wrapped up and done. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Um, Thank you for listening, I guess.